talk about it a bit later, Slovenia is one of the safest places on Earth based on World Peace Index. So if anybody is worried where you're going, don't worry. The only thing that can happen to you is you will be a little bit cold in the winter, but that's about it. The Slovenia is a part of Slovenia actually is a mountainous country. We have the highest point, which is called Triglav, three heads. It is 2,800 meters high. So that part of the country more or less looks like Himalayas. So it's rugged and lots of snow, lots of valleys, fresh water, and everything else. Most of the land is covered by forest. So we're probably third or fourth country in Europe being covered by the forest, which means it's very green country. For the comparison, India has only 21% of the land covered by the forest, and approximately 8% of the land is arable because we have so much forest. So Slovenia is a green country, which is not to forget. We have a little bit old population. The average age is 43 years. There are not too many foreigners living in our country. Very nicely put, we are not densely populated, so you will not see any crowds in Slovenia in general. Almost everybody is literate. The life expectancy in Slovenia is one of the highest in the world. For example, the Hong Kong that has the highest life expectancies has it at 84. We have it at 81. We have one of the lowest infant deaths per 1,000 births. That means our country is really, in all respects, well developed and well organized in a way. We have a quite high GDP per capita. Annual growth is normal for Central Europe, for the developed countries. And our GDP is approximately the same level as Spain, but higher than, for example, Greece and Portugal in European Union. So for comparison, you have the numbers here. So just to compare how well we are off. PPP means purchasing power parity. So that means how much actually you get for your euro or rupee worth. We are so-called high taxes, relatively good public services country. Which means that we have very large amount of public services that are more or less free for the residents. For example, we have free education from school, first year of school, K1, all the way to the masters, so including the masters. So there are no tuition fees for local students. Kindergarten is actually heavily subsidized by the government. It's not free, but it's heavily subsidized, so it's affordable. All the kids go to kindergartens. PhD is the only public service that is payable. So when you get to the PhD level for doctor's degree, then you have to pay. The tuition fees are between 3,000 and 5,000 euros per year. And most study programs have enough placements, enough places, except medicine, policing, and a few related areas, but not many. As I mentioned, high taxes, but that also means free healthcare for all. That means the taxes are deducted automatically off employer's salary list. immediately. So we as employees, we don't see that part of the taxes. They go directly to the healthcare. So it's of the employer's salary and of employees' salary. So what I see on my paycheck, I don't actually get, because one part the employee is paying, that is me, and one part my employer, my university, is paying for it. That's why we have 1 year full paid maternity leave. So as much as a lady has earned before got she gave a birth, she will get the same salary from the government. So if, for example, if she was employed in a private sector by a private company, when she gives a birth, then the government will pay her as much as she has earned in her previous job. We also have the public retirement system. It's government owned, government based. It is for the public and the private sector alike. So both sectors are paying into one retirement system. So one fund, only one fund. Here again, taxes are paid directly by the employer. I don't see that part of my wage. And the current retirement age is 60 years for males and females alike. Since I'm coming from the tourism faculty, I'm dean of the faculty of tourism. I have to talk a little bit about tourism in Slovenia, of course. Our landing webpage is slovenia.info. Tourism plays a very important role in Slovenia. We have 4% of GDP, which is directly induced by the tourism, not now in COVID, but in regular years, and 12% is induced, so produced indirectly by the tourism. We have approximately 5 million visitors per year. That is 1/3 of tourists visiting India. So just to get the impression how big numbers we get of tourists. So it is a very important business in Slovenia, as it is in Europe, which I'll talk about later. And Slovenia was declared as the world's first green destination. That means we pay a lot of attention to sustainability. We care about our environment, the cleanliness, about our rivers, forests, and everything else. And we strive to give our guests excellence in experiences. And Slovenia was declared the European Region of Gastronomy destination 2021, so this year. So a lot of events are going on despite the COVID about food, about beverages, wine, well-being, and everything else. As I mentioned before, Slovenia is a very safe country. World or Global Peace Index puts us on the 8th safest country in the world. So we are much better off than Switzerland, Germany, Australia, not to mention United States, meaning there is very, very low criminality rate. We are free to walk at streets at night. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen to girls. No rapes, no murders, nothing. So it really is a very safe and also a very foreigner-friendly country. A few words about our university. We are ranked among top 500 universities in the world, and national ranking of Maribor University is #1. This gives our students limitless opportunities for further career in Slovenia, in international markets. So our diploma is internationally recognized. We have some very famous students, actually graduates from our university. For example, the chief Mercedes designer, so the designer that is responsible for all the Mercedes cars design is coming from our university. We have relatively large number of students. Last year there were 30,000 students. 4% of the students are international, and average number of students per staff is 15.4, which is a little bit higher in social studies and lower in technology-related studies, for example, and also in medicine. And interestingly, there are more girls studying than boys at our university, which is again typical for a European university. Why we have a faculty of tourism in Slovenia? Simply because worldwide there are almost 2 billion tourists per year, before COVID, of course, and after COVID, they will come up again. 10% of global GDP is induced by tourism, and 12% of global employment is done in the tourism sector. And half of global tourism is actually happening in Europe. So it is a big business in Europe, the tourism. So we have two study programs in our faculty. First one is Bachelor of Tourism. It costs about, the tuition fee itself costs 3,500 euros per year, which translates to 3 study years, 180 ECTS, which means European Credit Transfer System. So it's, as I mentioned before, our diploma is internationally recognized, and we're using the so-called ECTS credits. Our basic purpose of the program is to deliver a relatively broad knowledge of different branches of tourism, mostly in spa tourism, natural spas, hospitality, sports, cultural heritage, rural tourism agencies. So we are not a hotel school. This is what we are not. We are everything else but hotel school. Of course, we do give our students some background in hotel management, but that is not our focus. So our focus is to have the students a broad knowledge, and they can get employment actually anywhere. In our study program, many successful companies actively participate. So our educational process has internships as a part of the education process. So you have to pay, not pay, but you have to pass the internship before you can graduate. So it is a compulsory part of the study program. And we also have lots of field work in tourism. What you are saying that you cannot study tourism from the books. The tourism has to be studied in the field. So when the tourists are here, you just go there, do the case studies, see how it works. The second program is the Master of Tourism, which has the same price, 3,500 euros per year is the tuition fee. This is a little bit more in-depth study program, so it goes a little bit more into the theory. A little bit more into the theory, but also it connects theory with the practical knowledge. So the graduates gain new competencies in research, planning, design solutions. So it's more or less not only the tourism, but general competencies. Here again, the students have a practical part of their study program, and our graduates will be creating the future of tourism. We have a lot of stress, a lot of focus on digital in our Master of Tourism program. The eligibility criteria are the same for all study programs in Slovenia, no matter if it's tourism, it's medicine, it's engineering, it doesn't matter. So anybody wanting to enroll into the first Bologna level, so that it is a bachelor degree cycle, this is the requirement is that the student has the completed secondary education with the right to enroll to Indian university, which actually means you're coming from the list of accredited secondary boards. There is a special procedure called recognition of previous studies, which is not very long procedure, but it's being done at our university. You have to be fluent in English because our study programs are in English. And there is a IELTS minimum requirement of 5.5 each band on average. If the places are fully occupied, which has not happened yet, the selection process starts based on the credits and marks, the grades, and we have no open board. For the second level, so for the master degree, it's the same. So you just have to have completed the first level degree at a nationally recognized higher education institution. Here again, you have Indian list of accredited universities. We do an additional check if you got enough credits during your previous studies. Again, we have the recognition of previous studies. We have two entry exams if you're not coming from social sciences. So if you're coming from medicine, if you're coming from science, then you have two entry exams, which all of our students from India before passed. So this is not a problem. Again, fluency in English is required. IELTS is required at minimum 5.5. Open board would mean a interview. So we do not select students based on the interviews. We do the interviews to check English, but we don't select students based on interviews. We select students based on grades and everything else. That is the open board. So, for example, if we have a requirement that at least 50% should be the average grade in the high school, we cannot accept somebody that has 45. But as I said, there is no open board, so we don't do the selection process because up until now we have accepted all students because our placements, the number of available seats for foreign students was not occupied yet. So, and we do not expect this to happen in the coming study year. Besides our university, also the embassy is checking the eligibility criteria. But before, I will just repeat, yes, there is a Skype interview, but not for checking how well the student performs, but only to check the genuinity for study abroad. So we don't accept students that don't want to study, they just want to get abroad for work purposes. And we do check English proficiency first through the interview and then through the IELTS, because we have had some problems that students did get 5.5 on the IELTS, but they couldn't speak English. That's why we do have Skype interviews, but mostly to check the English proficiency, not to accept or not the students. Embassy is also checking the intent of the study. So basically to prevent students from coming to work to Europe, but they really check that they want to study. So the most important part is the family income that is being checked by our university, also by the embassy. So you have to have approximately 8,000 euros per year surplus, which means you're able to cover the tuition fee and the cost of living in Slovenia. So the students usually get their ITRV forms, the copies, PAN numbers of family members and everything else. So it's very good to have it. As I mentioned, the IELTS is required, the minimum score 5.5 each band. We prefer that students get 6.5 because then they will be having less problems studying. We expect our students to have approximately 65% of the grades, preferably, of course, above 70, if possible. That's not eligibility criteria, it's actually our preference. We do offer post-landing services at our university. We offer on-campus accommodation, which is approximately running at 180 euros per month, which can be less in private and shared accommodations. And off-campus accommodation is also provided by local providers. We have a good network of our already existing Indian students in Slovenia. They help the incoming students get accommodated to life in Slovenia. We can have the airport pickup organized. There is public transportation available in and everything else. The IELTS is not needed at the time of application. It is needed before going to the embassy interview. So when you send your students to the embassy interview, you have to have the IELTS, not earlier. So it's not. That's why we do the Skype interviews to check the English of students. So typically, when we say the English of students is good enough, then it means that students will get 5.5 on their IELTS. So no, it is not required, the IELTS at the time of the application, but it is needed just before going to the embassy, because it is the embassy requirement, not ours. So to summarize, we are a government and a public university. So that means all our salaries, all our costs are covered by the government. That's why we can afford to have much lower tuition fees than, for example, in United States, Canada, Australia, which have the tuition-based study programs in the first place. So the students have to pay for it completely, wholly. Now, in our case, the government is paying most of the costs. We have a modern study program, which have a practical orientation. We have an internship as a part of study program, not only tourism, but also other study programs. The language of instruction is English. And interestingly, we offer our students German, Italian, and Slovenian languages for free. That is, it is included in the tuition. Based on our experience before COVID, not now, because now the embassy is more or less closed, only for urgent matters it's open, but we're expecting it to open quickly. The visa time is 3 months maximum. So from the application, from the day the students get their appointment, the visa will be issued in 3 months at most. We have a very flexible stay back period policy. 1 year is minimum. It can easily be extended, but before graduation, not after. It can easily be extended to 2 to sometimes even to 3 years. And citizenship in Slovenia can be granted after 7 years of holding the temporary residence permit, which also requires fluency in Slovenian language, but it's not very difficult. We have numerous working possibilities for our students. So part-time work is possible. Part-time is not limited by the number of hours worked per week, but by the salary taken per year. That means the students can work up to 3,800 euros per year tax-free, meaning that they can easily earn during their studies for their tuition fees. But after that amount, beyond that amount, they'll have to pay the taxes as if they were employed. The procedure for extending the stay back is rather simple. They have to consult our faculty services, and we work on individual basis. So typically in September, the students approach them, or actually we approach the students and explain them the whole procedure for the stay back. The stay back, 1 year, as I mentioned, is the minimum. So every student, Slovenian international student, is entitled to 1 year stay back. But if they want to have more years stay back, they can have 1 year stay back after each year. So in theory, they can have 3 stay back years. So after the first study year, after the second study year, and after the third study year, if we are talking about bachelor degree. So it is relatively easy. They just have to write an application to the university, actually the faculty management, that is to me. And when if students are studying well, that means if they did pass, they did get their credits, we will extend their stay back year in additionally without any problems. So we have had it before, we have done it before, and students actually quite like it. So they work 1 year, they study 1 year, and then again they work 1 year and study, and they complete. The minimum wage for students, so to continue, the minimum wage for students is government regulated, so they will not get exploited when they're working. They will get their minimum wage at least. And they also have basic insurances included in the minimum wage for students, meaning they will have their social security covered, also the pension, also the health insurance and incidence insurance, and so on. As we're located in Slovenia, we have very good connectivity to neighboring countries. There are daily buses and trains to Munich, to Berlin, to Vienna, to Rome, Venice, Paris, Prague, so just anywhere in Europe. Of course, our university has a very good Erasmus exchange program. Our students are going abroad for 1 year, no problem. We do have the ECTS system, so European Credit Transfer System, and that means diploma from our university, being one of the top 500 universities in the world, is accepted anywhere. Erasmus countries we have we have some at least 20 Erasmus countries: Germany, Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, Italy, Spain, Greece, Portugal, Poland, Czech Republic, France. The list of Erasmus countries and Erasmus possibilities are available on our webpage. And we also have a person responsible, so a dedicated person who takes care of Erasmus exchange for our students, our local students, and also our international students. So Erasmus exchange can be taken after the first year of studies. It cannot be taken during the first year of studies, but after the first year. So the person responsible for Erasmus exchange is contacting the first year students during their first year and counseling on students when and where to go and what they would like to see, which country. So we have a complete counseling system worked out. That will shortly conclude my presentation for today. Have a good day and goodbye.